All right, hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Practical Wealth Show. And I have a great guest for you guys. I always like to show winners, people that are doing, winners win. And so Julia Chose It is my guest today. Julia is Choseed. Did I say it right? Okay.
I
and
don't
I,
correct people.
all
So.
right, that's all right. No, I'll just say it right. It's respect, much respect. All right, so the but so now I've just started to get to really know Julia. She's actually, in the process of becoming one of our clients, but she interviewed me on another platform. What, it was about 6 months ago or so. And I had seen her from afar because we are part of the same real estate group, and I saw her rise and saw her went from just being a investor developer to teaching to doing courses. And so what I like to show guys, success leaves clues, and it's always about becoming, right? And Julia is definitely, young, very successful, but still becoming. So let me tell you about her, and then I'm going to have her tell you what I didn't tell you. So the many hats of Julia Choseed. So including real estate investor, real estate developer, investor, designer, consultant. She is the founder of Brickhouse Builders, a real estate development company that focuses on investing in Philadelphia's Strawberry Mansion neighborhood. In 2016, so it's 2022 as we record this, she purchased her first property with $11 in her bank account. Okay, so we won't go there, right? So, oh, I need a lot of money. Maybe not. And quit her job the same day. All right. So since then, she's developed millions in real estate through our successful career in real estate. Julia has flipped, rented, wholesaled, designed, and GC, general contractor, other investors' projects until she ultimately found that her passion lies in design and mentorship. See, folks, you don't know where you're going to end up. You have to start the journey, right? And then the path will be revealed as you go through it. So she, in addition to offering design services, investor consultations, she's developed and teaches a comprehensive accelerated construction management certification course in conjunction with Better Than Success. That's the thing we're both part of, and that she offers 3 times a year. So Julia, boy, that's a lot. I'm tired. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Curtis. I'm really excited to be here.
Oh gosh, y'all don't know. She is a powerhouse young woman. So Julia, tell them, did I leave anything out? Tell them what I didn't tell them.
So I'll first say that none of that was really ever part of the plan. That is a
Okay,
product of just do it.
right,
Just get started.
right.
That is the line, and I just got started. And one line that we hear a lot in real estate investing or entrepreneurship is, do it scared, or you'll never know enough to get started. So I sat in paralysis analysis for
Mhm.
quite a few years. I had read Rich Dad Poor Dad in high school. I wanted to make my parents happy, so I still went to college. I joined the real estate club at Rutgers, the college that I went to. I was the only woman in the club. It was a you know, bunch of men, and
Bunch of men. Hmm.
I yes. So from that point, it was like, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe this isn't my space. Maybe I don't belong. And I kept like telling myself all the reasons why I shouldn't do it.
Right.
And then finally, I kind of realized that a lot of the stuff that I'm studying and learning is not rocket science. And my problem is my mindset. So I started listening to those really aggressive, like um, Eric Thomas and, Gary Vee and all of the those motivational speakers. I put them on in the morning and it'd be like, you can do it.
Right, right, right.
So that's like the energy I needed at that time. And after a few years of not knowing where to start, right? Because there's so many ways to invest in real estate. There's so many ways. And I couldn't figure out which one was for me. Wholesaling sounds fun because you never have to buy anything. You can build up a lot of capital. Buying in apartment buildings, doing syndications, things like that, that's really fun because you can go big fast.
Hmm.
But I didn't really know, I didn't have any examples of my life of contractors or real estate investors. So, I ended up starting to study the real estate market around me. And I lived in South Jersey, so the closest thing was Philly. And it was a really good time to be studying the real estate market here in Philly. It was about 2015, 2016.
Mhm.
And I bought my first building, and I'll kind of fast forward a little bit. And, house hacking and the BRRRR strategy have been the like the core of how I got started.
Tell them what house hack. It's just repeat what everybody should know, but just break that down for them. What is house hacking? What is BRRRR?
Yeah, so house hacking is basically turning where you live into an income producing, vehicle. So you could do this in so many different ways, but it's ultimately leveraging an owner occupied conventional mortgage, which of course is a little bit easier to get to, lower interest rates, lower down payments. There's grants available for first time home buyers. It's like a really great way to get started. And you could buy a single family, a duplex, a triplex, or even a quad, live in one unit and rent out the others. So now, by buying your first owner occupied home, you're already starting investing in real estate and taking away that cost of living.
Right. And it was the BRRRR method.
So the BRRRR method is buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. And this real estate investing method is available to anyone and everyone. And this is like, one of my favorite strategies for just normal people to start building wealth. If you don't have a lot of money, maybe you do have some money and you don't want to partner, you can start investing in real estate and building out a whole portfolio through the BRRRR method by doing one at a time, two at a time, and then just rinsing and repeating. So you could start with, a certain amount of capital and reuse that same capital over and over and over again. So without having to need a massive amount of money, you can build out a whole portfolio, start building passive income, all of that equity alone is going to increase your net worth. Me and Nicole met the other day and we're talking about it. And it's like, if you do the smallest deal in Philly, then your net worth will increase by about $50,000.
Wow.
Just by doing one of the smallest deals that are in Philly, like a single family, row home in the hood.
In the hood. And so Nicole, just so for reference, Nicole's been on the show. She is how we got connected through a Veteran Success League, right?
Yeah.
And she's going to talk about your as an executive coach within that. But that kind of, it's like was one of probably the top real estate investment thing. And Nicole I'm going to get her back on, but she's a beast just in pulling all single-handedly, not well with a team, no, but really it's her vision that pulled this and pulled all this stuff together, right? And and really empowering Julia and women like her to like, hey, I can be a boss, I can do this. Because she gave you the ability to shine. I know you came out of nowhere. You're doing classes, how to be a GC. You're doing site visits, and you didn't plan on any of that kind of stuff. You're just trying to
I really did
follow Rich Dad Poor Dad and get some property, right?
I ended up falling in love with construction. I ended up falling in love with interior design. I really, put an emphasis on enjoying the process, right? Because construction isn't easy. But I really had a lot of fun learning and showing up. And shortly after I started, I got my GC license. And pretty early on in my investment career, I met Nicole. And part of my plan was to always, bring this information back to my people, because I didn't, after I read Rich Dad Poor Dad and I started reading all the information online, I'm like, why is this not accessible? Why is this information feel like such a secret? No one in my life has ever talked about real estate investing or investing in general, financial literacy. We don't touch that stuff in school or in our day to day. And I was like, I want to make this information more accessible, but let me go make sure it works first. And I met Nicole, pretty early on, and, I went up to her and I'm like, I really love what you're doing. This is so amazing. It's so powerful to be in this space with a bunch of hungry real estate investors. I'm like, this was always part of my vision. And I really want to help educate and bring, my experience to people. And she's like, let's go out to lunch on Tuesday. And within 2 weeks, we had the construction management course designed, and, we just hit the ground running. She really, she's such a brilliant person.
Yes.
And also like, she believed in me,
Right,
you know?
right, right. That's part of it. You need somebody you got to get around people that will encourage your dreams, right? That will, I want to build $1 million real estate portfolio, and you can't do that, right? If you hang around regular people and you need somebody to say, is that all you want, right? And challenge you to you, because we always say, Julie's been around me a little bit, investing is not about buying something, it's really about becoming something, right? And so I like to bring, these are real people that are, and she's a stud. A stud is a good thing. It's like a superstar. And just sort of clang out, because it might not be low my internal lingo. That's a good thing. And but she's still becoming. She's a baby, right? In terms of what she can do, and I know her, so what her vision is. Let's go back. So two things. So one, you started with $11. I haven't got off that yet. And so let's talk about that. And let me bring the second one so I can get out. And I'm sure all these men on the construction site, took you seriously from day one, and did what you said. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about this. How to start. How do you have the confidence to start? The heart, I call it, to start with no money and look at a thing and say, okay, I want to fix this.
Yes. So it's interesting. I was just really, reflecting on this the other day is, we already know that there's so many different ways to invest in real estate. There's so many different strategies. There's so many different like partnership arrangements that you can come up with. And for me, I didn't even know what I was setting myself up for at the time. I was just so hungry to learn about investing in real estate. So I was like a sponge at first. I'm like spending all my time like learning about real estate investing, analyzing the numbers, which are very simple. Like real estate math is very elementary.
Okay.
And I'm just learning all of the calculations, like what is a cap rate, what is cash on cash, what is NOI. Like I didn't know any of that. So I'm like study. And what I was doing that I didn't realize is I was gathering all this information that other people didn't have the interest or time to gather.
Right.
And those people happen to be the people with money. So I was setting myself up for the opportunity for partnerships with people who had money, but not the knowledge.
Right.
So at this time in my life, all I could think, talk, eat, breathe was real estate.
Okay.
I was obsessed with this thing. And, that also like allowed other people to say, wow, Julia must really know what she's talking about. All she's talking about is real estate. She must know her stuff. So before I even had a track record or had a portfolio, any experience, people were willing to invest and partner with me on real estate deals because I knew so much more than they knew, and they wanted to invest in real estate. And they're like, well, I'm already going to be better off because she knows all these like words that I don't know. And she knows the market, and her, she's running these numbers. And I did some fairly conservative analyses of potential deals, and I would bring them to people and say, I've met with contractors. This is how much construction might cost. This is how much houses they're selling. That's if nothing appreciates from the time that we start to the time that we finish. This is what we're looking at. And the numbers were really good. So best case scenario, like everyone would make a lot of money. At worst case scenario, you'd still make your money, and maybe I didn't make as much money.
Right. Which is good for them. Right. That's a good way to lead with it. Yep.
Yeah, but there's also so many ways these days to creatively invest in real estate without your own money. Like the idea of being an investor, like right off the bat, you think money investor. Like to be an investor,
or I gotta have good credit, and I gotta be able to, the bank has got to give me money, and people waste time because they won't think, they won't be creative, because all they know is what they know, but all what you know is not what's out there.
And I don't want to discredit how important good credit and all of that stuff
is, but you didn't have to get started that way or a lot of money. That's what I want to see. You need it, but you can build it. It's not hard to get your credit turned around in months, 3 months, 6 months, a year. It's not fatal.
Right. So what I want people to do is understand that, part of the big picture is to have good credit and to have capital and to have a portfolio. But if you don't, not let that be an excuse either.
Yes, that's the point. Yes.
And, I want to circle back to, you said that I'm a baby, and like in the grand scheme of things, yes. And I want to like stress that like, it only took me 5 years to reach financial freedom and build out a real estate portfolio that one funds my life today and
Yep.
later will set me up pretty nicely for retirement.
5 years. Hear that? Okay, not 40. She's not like about to turn 65. She's, I only, it's not polite to ask woman's age, but but she's young. Young to me, she's young. All right. So, and but she's 5 years. So you started like what, 24-ish, 25-ish?
Yeah, about 25.
Yeah, yeah. And so it kills me that Rich Dad Poor Dad, you're in high school. That's awesome. I'm trying to get my kids they've read it, but it ain't sinking in yet, right? And in college, and when I read it, I was like 30 something. Okay, like 98 when it first came out, and it rocked my world in terms of how I thought about. And I was already in financial services 15 years, and I was like, well, yeah, what he's talking about, what I'm doing are different, and it kind of rewired me in terms of what we're doing now. And so it's awesome to me that you got it at a young age and created. So she's got financial freedom at a young age, and it's like, because the first step in Rich Dad Poor Dad is to get out the rat race. So, and now she's got time, she's got capital, access to capital and knowledge, right? To now, boom, scale on top of that. And that's exciting, because now she could do in half the time what it took her 5 years to do, she might do in 3, because now you're going into it not knowing, not with no confidence that you can do it, because you've already done it, right?
Exactly.
And that's the thing. Tell them about the construction part. I think that's interesting of because that's when I first met you. You were at a thing, talk about how you they didn't respect that you were to get to go in, show me, knew what you were talking about. And I like that story. So tell them about that.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but like, it's still very, very challenging for women to be in these spaces, and like, I had to really, come up with a few, I want to use the word boundaries, and, ground rules for myself, which like, rather than, having the pity party of, women don't get respected in the space, it's not for me. There's this beautiful thing now where like most of the people that we're educating and mentoring are women.
Yes.
Once you start seeing someone who looks like you in a space, then your level of I can do that just skyrockets.
Yep.
But there's a few things that I had to really implement, and one of them was like, I had to know more than the men on site. And honestly, it's really not that hard to do.
Right.
But I had to be able to like show up and have conversations with people, because right off the bat, they're going to assume that you're the secretary, the assistant, that you're there to give them the invoice. And so you can't show up with the privilege of having them be in your best interest. So when I meet with a plumber, I have to know enough about plumbing to navigate these conversations, to one, show them that, I know what I'm talking about, and you can't really, do harm here.
Right.
And two, like, just to gain enough respect. So it's like, I have to know 2 times as much as my counterpart to be treated as equal.
Right.
That was
so people would say that's not fair, but it's not fair or unfair. It just is, right? And so you just have to respond to that by being twice as better. I used to tell my daughter all the time when she's in high school, I always felt she was being slighted by awards. I said, listen, if it's a tie, you're going to lose. So don't make it a tie. You need to be better. And that's just how it is. And I don't think, I'm a parent. As parents, we teach people that. And I think that we've got a bunch of softies out there whining about fairness when you just need to get your ass to work, and get better and educate yourself. So that's my
and like, don't get me wrong, it's not fair.
My libertary moment, my 30-second libertary moment. So go ahead.
So like, if me like talking about and giving energy and investing in this idea that it's not fair. How productive is that?
Not at all.
And
Yep.
so it's like,
Yep.
wow, this sucks. This isn't fair. What am I going to do about it?
What am I gonna do about it?
How am I going to overcome it? How am I going to be different? And like, honestly, one of the biggest things that like I've had to do was, invite people who look like me, who are doing these things into my life in a bigger way,
Yeah.
because it can feel isolating to be the only woman trying to navigate these difficult, dynamics, let's say on a job site. And then, the self-talk comes in.
Right.
So I kind of made it a point of like, I need more women investors in my life, because they're going to take up more space than, this silly, conservative male
Right.
on my
Right.
job site saying
More
that I'm
space in
so
your head in terms of your thought process. Right.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I love that. See, folks, success leaves clues. I want you to hear her. Okay. Are you hearing her? That's what I'm trying to bring out, that look, there's no obstacle. There's people that have done what you have done. Okay. And we add this to your library. She's going to give you some ways to reach out, to her and get involved in what she's done. But I want you to hear from somebody that's not has done it. She's doing it. So she's in the mix, looking at projects, building stuff. And what if you had to go back 5 years ago, a long time, right? What would you tell that version of Julia today? Because really, it's a funny thing when you build your marketing, for your stuff, you're talking to you 5 years ago, people that were you 5 years ago, bringing them to where you are. So as you think about what you're doing, somebody told me that I was at a conference last week. I was like, you're right. I'm talking to people that were, are on the precipice of that journey. What would you do differently or not worry about if you could go back and whisper in your ear 5 years ago?
I would say there's two big things, and I'm very big on like not having regrets. My journey is my journey, because that was the journey that I needed to have.
Hmm.
But you know, two things come to mind, and one of them is, because I didn't have any money when I got started, I was very big on wearing all of the hats and, being very conservative with my spending, a little too conservative. So I didn't invest, in outsourcing certain tasks or investing in, certain mentorships or resources that would have helped me along the way. I was very much of like, I can do this myself.
Right.
And, I had to learn over time that like like our dynamic artists, or like other people that I've like brought into my business that are so important to have as part of your team, I would have brought them in sooner. And
Right.
another part is, being a lot more careful with partnerships.
Mm.
In the beginning, as you can see from my experience, I was very much a yes man,
Right.
like
Right.
I didn't know the word no. Whatever opportunity came my way, I said yes. And, I had a few rules before I got started, and I knew that I didn't want to have a business partner, and I didn't want to have employees, and I didn't want to be an employee. And I broke all of those rules in my first year because I got excited about the idea of making more money.
Okay.
And, I kind of went against my intuition and against what like I told myself I wanted to do. And the universe was like, this isn't for you. Remember, this isn't your path. So I would say when it comes to partnerships, make sure you are using a lawyer, make sure you are protected and that you're making like very, well thought out, sound decisions, and you're not getting too excited about opportunity and saying yes to things that maybe don't serve you.
Right. Right. That's good stuff. Thank you. And so let's fast forward a little bit to so you've built a portfolio, you're still building, but now you're in a phase where you're starting to kind of share what you know and help other kind of bring people forward. So tell me a little about what you're doing now and what you're excited about, what you're working on.
Yeah, so I it has manifested in a few different ways. So a few years ago, me and Nicole, like I mentioned, created the construction management course. So throughout my journey, especially when I was still really active in the real estate development part, I was teaching this construction management course, taking the students on site to projects that I was working on. We're actually doing another class in November to December. So the end of November to the beginning of December. It's 4 weeks. If you want to learn more, you can go to betterthansuccess.com/CM. CM is in construction management.
And so as we record this, let me just put time stamp this a little bit. So we're recording this in October, early October 2022. So if you're hearing this, you'll definitely, this show will be out before that, and we'll put that link in the show notes. Go ahead.
And if it's first week of October, like if this is a live video, Friday's my birthday, and I'm doing like a little flash sale on the course. So for my birthday, I want to do 50% off of the class for just a day. So
Okay.
if this airs September or October 7th or sooner, then you could use code Happy B-Day Julia and get 50% off of the class.
Okay. All right. We'll make sure we get this out.
But outside of that, I've created a free webinar where I get to share with other people what my journey looks like in detail, how I achieve financial freedom, really try to plant seeds in other people who like haven't read Rich Dad Poor Dad, or are in the very curious stage of building wealth, investing. Maybe they hate their job, maybe they want more time with their family. So this is like a very intro level webinar. I do it for free once a month. And then I've also joined the Better Than Success executive team. So through that, I get to lead a lot of events and classes and spend a lot of time in spaces where I get to help new investors or seasoned investors level up and, build connections with other people. And yeah, those are like the main things that I get to spend my time with today. And I have a ton of fun. I do some one-on-one coaching as well, and watching my clients. I got an email this morning from one of my clients. He had just got his OSHA 30 certification done.
Okay.
Like he's just super hungry, and I have to say it lights me up. And like every time I like acknowledge how excited I get to see other people win, I'm like, this is what I need to be doing. Like this is I'm right now, and I just want to like be in that space of like seeing other people win, helping other people win, like being an example of like, if I can do it, you can do it.
That's powerful, because I feel that way also, where I just like when the light bulb goes on, when I get what I'm talking about, that inspires me up, because I've it's you have to have a calling to because money in of itself is not enough. Like you have to be involved in something bigger than you, right? And I think that there's a lot of like, what I think was so good about what you're doing is that there's like, so I was at a conference last week, and they were talking about this woman had to fly in, and she was in Puerto Rico, right? And she had like, her husband had set up like a generator. I thought about you, right? And so she had the house, she had a generator, two backup generators, and a thing to hit the button that where the shades come down, and boom, they were like, right. And so they were like solid. So they were like, and I thought about you. I was like, all right, I need to try to find this thing so I can play it for her. But she said now since she was secure, they were able to focus on other people. So when the weather subsided a little bit, the husband was able to go to the neighbors. Do you need anything? Do you have food? Do you have a power? He was willing to offer one of their backup generators, to the people around you. And so her point was that we are coming or in a recession, right? Where that's the financial hurricane, right? And so what you do, I think what I do also is prepare people for that financial hurricane. How do you respond to that kind of stuff? And I think that that's a higher calling than just making money, even though we're both in this game to make money, right? Because for me, I don't know about you, tell you how you feel about this, because a driving force for me, Julia, is freedom, right? That's what, like, we call it in our system, getting to a position of FU, right? Where your passive income twice your expenses. And just where I don't want to have to answer to people. Is that one of your driving things? Tell them about that, because that you gotta be eaten up with that to do what you've done in that shorter period of time.
Yes. So, I mean, freedom is the goal, right? So we did a really fun podcast episode the other day, me and Mickey Mansions, and the topic was, what is your why? And then we made it a fun little game. We did what's your why in 7 seconds? And we were like just being silly, and we put the timer on. We're like, my why is I don't want to work, and I don't want to set an alarm, and I don't ever have to work for anyone else again, and I just want to chill.
Right.
Yeah, that's like off the rip. Like, what is your why? And for me, it's like it's silly, but like a big thing is like, I don't want my phone to ever ring with a phone call that I don't want to answer. Like I have gotten to the point, like last year, it was like I spent a lot of time in Puerto Rico. I'm actually in the process of relocating now, and last winter I was in Puerto Rico, and I had my Apple Watch on, and I'm snorkeling. I'm in the middle of the ocean, and my watch buzzes underwater, and it's like the sewage just backed up into the basement, and I'm like, what is wrong with? Like, why is this why am I getting this message when I'm like in total bliss, right?
Right.
So a big part of me is of my why is like outsourcing all of those things, and like having management in place, and like freedom is, I talk about how there's 3 pillars of freedom for me, and it's time freedom, location freedom, and financial freedom. And not all of them get achieved at the same time, but like financial freedom is I'm making enough money to live, and I can choose to work or not to work today.
Right.
And time freedom is I can work when I want to work, and I can manage my own schedule. And location freedom, I can be in Puerto Rico and do that work, or I can be here and do
That's
that
right.
work.
That's awesome.
So that's kind of like another big thing of like me shifting what my structure, what is the word I'm looking for?
I hope you got room for my wife and I, so I can come visit you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm working on a 10 unit right now.
There you go. All right.
First 10 to call dibs.
All right. That's cool. Yeah, I think that's because it's funny you say that, because one of the things that I find is people can tell you what they don't want when you run an exercise, but they have a hard time saying what they want and why. And so when I work with people, it's like I have to really start working to a real exercise, because it's hard to reach a target you don't have. And so you've really got to figure out your why, and then what you're willing to give up. Not give up. Well, it's time. It's working through the fear, doing it scared, all that stuff. But you can do that because you have a big why, a big, as Napoleon Hill and Rich Dad say, a burning desire. You've got to have and we can't manufacture that for you as your coaches. You have to have that.
Absolutely. And honestly, it's the most important part of the whole timeline. And people are very eager to say, how did you get started? How do I get started? I'm like, listen, like, it's your mindset first. And I know that's not the answer you want to hear. You want to get right into the game, but like, there's a lot of internal work first that you have to do in order to sustain what's going to come next.
Right.
And I want to kind of revisit the why and what my journey has looked like, because my first 5 or 6 years was very actively investing, like on the job sites, meeting contractors, showing up for inspections, doing draws. Like I was trading time for money still, but that was all part of the plan. I had a greater why of this is not forever. So like, that's why it's important to like not get lost in the sauce, right? Because I know people who start investing in real estate, become general contractors, start flipping houses, and they never stop. And next thing they know, they have over 100 buildings, over 20 projects going on at a time. There is zero time freedom. There is zero location freedom. They can't even show up for their family, for their friends, but they're building massive amounts of wealth. But why? Like, it's just like you get lost in the hustle and bustle, and it's almost like an addiction. So like, it's so important to have that structure. And like, I wanted to, I had to be the sweat equity. I had to do that for 5 years until I
hmm
had enough of my capital, my portfolio, to then be able to restructure and say, what can I do now to continue? Like, I'm 30, I don't want to retire yet. I
Right,
still have a lot of energy and passion for this thing, but maybe I don't have to be on the job site at 6 a.m. every day anymore,
right,
because I'm not a morning person. That's part of
right.
my why.
Yes. Yeah, I see stuff like that. And I could see retirement is we always say is an agricultural term. It means to withdraw or to put out of use. So you're not trying to, because see, man, when I say man, I mean men and women are like goal seeking, things. You have to be, so your purpose has, okay, see, now that you're financially free, you can turn your efforts into helping other people, which is still making you productive. It'll actually make you even more money, right? And because I was listening to this thing by Myron Golden. So implementation is the lowest level of value, right? And so it's implementation. I always forget the second one. It's management. There's communication. So now you're moving into communication, right? So if you're in implementation, you make between minimum wage and about $80,000-$90,000 a year. Okay, management, maybe I think he said 125 to a buck 50. Communication, it could be hundreds of thousands to like 100 million if you're like Robert Downey Jr. or like a A-list actor that is making $50 million a picture or whatever, right? And then there's imagination, right? And so but you have to get money out of the way, so now you're thinking about using your mind to create value in the marketplace, and that value is where money comes from. You worked on you had skills, so your skills, because you invested in yourself. I just want to pull out some of the points, so I make sure you're getting out of this, is what allowed people to invest with her, because she invested in becoming. So you'll hear a pattern. All the successful people says, y'all don't want to hear about mindset, right? But it's become, then do, then have, right? And so becoming is work. Transformation is work. It's what you watch, who you hang around, what you listen to, right? And mindset, skill set, network. So you'll see that pattern: mindset, skill set, network, mindset, skill set, network. And then the money starts to come if you're listening to Curtis now, and you're paying yourself first and doing all the stuff I talk about. And and now you have capital to put those skills to work. And see, so I see that pattern in your life. Julia, what, as we wind down, what is there anything I didn't ask you that you want to emphasize or bring out?
No, I just had a thought on everything that you just said, though, and it really kind of reminded me of one of the great secrets of life, right? So
hmm
the money will come if you're following your passion. So the once we reach that level of financial freedom, we can focus on the things that feel like our life's work. The money's
Right,
going to come anyway because
right,
our attention is on the work. It's not
right,
on the money. So at first
right,
it's on the money, and then we get to shift to this space of it being on the work. And you brought this up in a few different ways a few different times, and like one of the pillars of life is service.
right.
And like, for us to be full beings, we need to be of service in some way, shape, or form. And it's like, you told the story about the family in Puerto Rico, and I have like a similar vision for when I'm there. It's like, I'm going to have the privilege to be able to be secure, to then be of service to my people when they're like, who maybe don't have those pillars of freedom.
Right.
So it's like, to be able to get yourself to a point where you're service oriented, and then you're living your life's work. That's when the real success is reached.
Yeah, I mean, if
So
you're living in prosperity, then you understand there's more than enough for everybody to have more than enough. And so other, politicians and, people on TV with an agenda want you to be in scarcity and, create class warfare and all that kind of stuff. So you're distracted while they're stealing money out your back pocket because you're, you're distracted. So there's a lot of stuff you see on TV. That's why you gotta like kind of get out of the world and get into what you're doing and journal and read and network and focus on winning your. I always tell my kids, run your race, right? Running your race and being focused on your, your definite aim, which you'll see all in her story, and then don't worry about that stuff. But you have to protect yourself financially, right? And then position yourself to switch to offense real fast to take advantage of stuff. I call it playing offense and defense at the same time. And that's where she is so awesome to see. I didn't even know some of this stuff. I just bet it's kind of silly to me to say I'm so proud of you, but you're awesome. So
I love that you talk about, like, because scarcity and abundance is such a big part of this too, right?
yeah,
And like,
yeah,
I have this conversation all the time. There's an abundance of money. There's an abundance of people in your life that have a large amount of capital that want to partner with you in real estate. There is enough for everybody to eat, you know.
right.
And I'm part of the executive team on BTS, and it's like, this isn't a competition. We're all winning. You know, there's
Right.
enough for everybody to win.
Right.
And you know, that in itself, like, one, brings you so much peace when you're operating in this space. Like, you know, the relief that's taken off where you're not in competition, there is enough for me. You just get to move easier, but also, like, it brings so much more abundance into your life by nature.
Right. Right. That is fantastic. So Julie, how can they find out? Tell them again, where's the best if they want to follow you and see what you're up to or get involved in your webinars or in your coaching, where would you like them to go?
Yep. So I am very active on Instagram. My Instagram's Brickhouse Builders. I also just launched a website. It's a big landing page for everything that I have going on. It's buildwithbrickhouse.com. You can schedule one-on-ones. You can sign up for my webinar, sign up for the class. Just keep an eye on everything that we have in the pipeline. And, you know, Instagram is really the fun place where I get to interact with everybody.
Okay. And so and I guess in there the links to a lot of this stuff are in your IG account.
Yep. So everything's on my Instagram too. So you can either go to Brickhouse Builders on Instagram or buildwithbrickhouse.com.
Awesome. All right. So we're going to put those links in the show notes. So Julia, thank you so much. It was so exciting to get a chance to return the favor and do this with you.
Yeah, it's fun to like be on each other's podcasts.
Right. So while I'm gonna know her before she's, she's already big, but she's gonna be about to blow up. And I'm gonna say I knew you back when. So don't forget me when you're famous. Right. I just want to thank all the little people. Right. So thank you so much. See, we know each other. So you've watched the video, we're giggling because we talk all the time. And Julia, I thank you guys. Hopefully you got some. You need to listen to this like a couple times, and I want you to notice the patterns, take some notes, and if you're looking for a coach, you're looking to level up and take your business, or you want to get started in real estate or take it to a next level, go to her Instagram, follow her, and then get with her for BTS, and then if you're ready for a coaching, y'all decide that and do that too. How's that?
Awesome.
All right, guys. Thank you. Go out there and make it a prosperous